Yahoo Fantasy Football, the Tucson Tackle Dummies League. This is your Week 9 recap. Week 9 had a momentous comeback on one end and the season's biggest blowout on the other. We have a new number 1 seed in the league. Let's get to this. Lombardi's Ghost defeats I Don't Deserve This in the week's closest matchup, 137.25 to 129.5. A name change didn't change the end result as the former Angry Arthritis takes another loss, this time at the hands of Wildcat Division leader Lombardi. Lombardi put together a strong offensive performance with Patriots combo Tom Brady and Wes Welker combining for 36.73 points this week. Running back Darren Sproles added 19.53 points, and tight end Jermichael Finley went for 11.65 points. The scoring continued with surprise breakout games from wide receiver Josh Cribbs with 16.69 and wide receiver Steve Breston scoring 13.25, giving Lombardi a 14.09 point average from his 4 wide receivers. Deserve had a game-high 19.6 from running back DeMarco Murray in response, but the team's highest scorer, quarterback Tim Tebow, sat on the bench in favor of Eli Manning at that position, who did score 19.1, but eventually got beat by the controversial Broncos quarterback when all was said and done. Deserve got negative points from running back Delani Carter. Had Deserve went with Tim Tebow and either of his other active bench options for the flex position, he would have pulled off the upset. And keep in mind, Deserve is still playing without the injured wide receiver Andre Johnson. Over on defense, Deserve had a solid performance with 14 points from the Dallas defense, 9.5 from linebacker Navarro Bauman, and 9 from defensive back Jarius Byrd. But again, this squad struggled at defensive line, getting a combined 2 points from Chris Clemens and Richard Seymour. Deserve is now 1-8 on the year, while Lombardi improves to the league's number 2 seed at 7-2 overall. In the comeback performance this week, Navajos knocked off Viva Football 121.26 to 113.05. A bear attack and a little luck led Navajos to a Monday night comeback to knock off Viva this week. Starting with a little luck, Arizona defensive back Patrick Peterson scored a game-winning punt return for a touchdown, making him Navajo's highest scoring player this week with 17.04 points. Add to that 7 points from fellow defensive back Kyle Arrington, and Navajo's 2 DBs outscored the rest of Navajo's defense combined. And then there was the Bears, as Navajo's nabbed 12.75 from running back Matt Forte, 14 from kicker Robbie Gould, and 8 from the Chicago defense to finish Monday on top. Surprisingly, Navajos opted to bench Bears quarterback Jay Cutler, who actually outperformed Navajo's starting QB Matt Castle, and Navajos still won despite benching the team's highest scorer, the Arizona defense, which had 19 points this week. Viva had the matchup's top scorers, with running back Arian Foster scoring 23.25 and running back Marshawn Lynch surprising everyone with a 20.55 point performance. However, this was not enough to make up for injured Felix Jones staying in the starting lineup and scoring no points, and 3 individual defensive players scoring no points at all. Navajo's victory ends a 6-game losing streak and moves the team to 3-6 on the season, while Viva falls to 2-7 overall. Mojo Jojo knocked off Mustache Discount 166.42 to 140.35. Mustache had the week's 4th highest score, but unfortunately had to play one of the 3 teams to score more points than them as in this week's highest scoring matchup. Aztec Division leader Mojo got a game-high 32.13 out of quarterback Aaron Rodgers and another 29.15 from wide receiver Julio Jones's fantasy football coming out party. In fact, Mojo's 4 wide receivers combined for 67.5 points this week. Mustache countered with 4 running backs combining for 44.9 points, but the team's highest scoring running back, Reggie Bush, rode the bench this week with his 20.95 points. Mustache did get 20.53 from wide receiver Jacoby Ford and a team-high 21.41 from quarterback Tony Romo. However, Romo's success did not spell success for handcuff wide receiver Des Bryant, who fell way short of projections for Mustache with a pedestrian 6.76 this week. On defense, Mojo had 4 players beat projections, led by 14 from the Houston defense and 11.5 from linebacker Desmond Bishop, while Mustache had just 1 player beat projections in linebacker DeQuell Jackson and his 12.5 points. Mojo's win keeps him ahead of the surging White Powerade at 6-3 overall in the Aztec division, while Mustache's loss drops the team 2 games back in the Toro division at 5-4 overall. In a non-competitive matchup, Big Ben's Revenge knocked off Wildcats 93.92 to 67.26. The league's lowest scoring team on the year knocked off a playoff contender as Big Ben beat Wildcats in one of the least competitive matchups of the season. Wildcats posted the lowest score of the season thanks to poor team management with 3 starters left in on a bye week, including running back Adrian Peterson. Both linebackers were on bye and in the lineup this week, with perfectly healthy linebacker London Fletcher on Wildcats' bench, scoring 9 points this week. Add to that wide receiver Malcolm Floyd staying in the lineup while injured, and the Oakland defense going for -2 points, while the New York Giants defense sat on Wildcats' bench, scoring 10 points. And the end result was a bad loss against a team dealing with its own lineup issues. Big Ben had 5 starters score no points at all, as 3 of those players were on a bye. Wide receiver Brian Hartline produced nothing, and running back Balil Powell was projected nothing and scored nothing. In fact, Powell has not scored any points at all this season, yet has remained in Big Ben's lineup for multiple weeks now. Big Ben also left running back Mike Tolbert on his bench for 21.2 points, and the win moves Big Ben to 3-6 overall, while the loss drops Wildcats to 4-5 on the season. Wildcats, however, is still just 2 games out in the Cavs division. White Powerade knocked out Greek Thunderball 123.62 to 85.51. The hottest team in the league may be White Powerade, who increased his winning streak to 4 games after beating Greek this week in a lopsided affair. Powerade had just 3 players beat projections this week, with LaDainian Tomlinson, the Atlanta defense, and running back Michael Bush, who had a game-high 19.4. Powerade quarterback Michael Vick, though, scored just 12.97, and wide receiver Deion Branch added just 2.6 points this week. But Powerade still dominated because of the inactive Greek. After Greek showed signs of life last week, the squad once again disappointed with lineup woes. Wide receiver Calvin Johnson went to the bench on a bye this week, making it even harder for Greek to find scoring. Greek had a team-high 18.5 from quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, but only 2 players reached double digits. Tight end Brandon Pettigrew was in the lineup on a bye, and 4 individual defensive players scored no points at all, including defensive back Brian McCann, who isn't even on an NFL roster right now. Powerade is now above 500 with the victory at 5-4 and having won 4 straight, and is also only a game out of first in the Aztec division despite having no wins within the division, going 0-3 to start the season. Greek is now 3-6 overall and 4 games back in the Toro division after the loss. Championship Cheese knocked off Raging Boners 127.61 to 87.7. A crucial matchup between wildcard playoff contenders ends in a win for Cheese by nearly 40 points. Boners wasn't at full strength this week as running back Ahmad Bradshaw was on the bench injured, and quarterback Cam Newton went to the bench on a bye. But the team's lineup issues didn't end with the bench. With running back Mark Ingram in the lineup but out with an injury and the second running back slot left empty, the running back scoring was left to the disappointing Chris Ogbonia at flex with just 2.35 points. Wide receiver Hakeem Nicks was also out with injury but in the lineup, making it 4 total offensive slots, returning no points at all for Raging Boners this week. The team did manage some scoring, though, with fill-in quarterback Andy Dalton scoring 22.18 and linebacker Matthias Kianuka scoring 13.5 points. Cheese found success in victory thanks to 8 players beating projections, including 31.3 from the combined effort of tight ends Antonio Gates and Jake Ballard. Quarterback Josh Freeman added 17.39, and linebacker Patrick Willis raked in 15.5 points this week. All those efforts making up for the fact that wide receiver Deshaun Jackson scored just 1.92, and running back Daniel Thomas scored just 1.2 points. Cheese uses the win to stay just a game back in the Wildcat division at 6-3 overall, while Boners falls to 5-4 overall, but remains just 1 game out in the Cavs division. Inglorious Bear Jew knocked off What the Shell 170.25 to 120.87. A big-time matchup between top teams was not nearly as competitive as anticipated, as Bearju defeats Cavs division leader Shell by nearly 50 points this week. Bearju had 8 players beat projections and 8 players in double digits, led by quarterback Matt Ryan with 22.7 points. Bearju went with 3 tight ends this week and found success as Jimmy Graham, Aaron Hernandez, and Brent Selleck combined for 27.55 points. Bearju also had 27.8 from 2 wide receivers and 30.7 from 2 running backs. Shell had just 3 players beat projections total, and just one of those on offense with 10.05 points from wide receiver A.J. Green. Quarterback Drew Brees did score a team-high 20.67 this week, but the team's usually strong running back core had to go without Maurice Jones-Drew, who was on a bye this week, and the 3 running backs in the lineup all underperformed. Beanie Wells had just 3.8 points, and LeGarrette Blount and Cedric Benson also fell short of their projected totals. Over on defense, Bearju got 15 from a Green Bay defense that gave up 38 points in their meeting with San Diego this week, thanks to 2 interceptions returned for touchdowns by the Green Bay defense. The win keeps Bearju in the mix at 6-3, just a game back in the Wildcat division, while Shell's loss drops the team to 6-3 overall and out of the league's #1 seed, but the team remains a game ahead in the Cavs division race. And in your week's biggest blowout, AZ Chargers knocked off the Amazons 191.77 to 89.97. The league's new #1 seed, well, that's AZ Chargers, thanks to a 100-plus point victory against Amazons this week. Amazons was once again very short-handed, with quarterback Matthew Stafford and running back Javid Best on the bench on a bye, and injured running backs Peyton Hillis and Darren McFadden also on the bench with injuries. Fill-in running backs Jason Snelling, Isaac Redmond, and Carnell Williams combined for just 4.45 points, trying to fill the massive void created by the team's 3 best running backs riding the pine. AZ Chargers, meanwhile, attacked with all 9 offensive players beating projections. AZ Chargers' 3 San Diego Chargers, Phillip Rivers, Vincent Jackson, and Nick Novak, combined for 73.45 points, while running backs Steven Jackson and Willis McGahee combined for 42.75 points. In a lone bright spot, though, Amazons did beat AZ Chargers on the defensive side of the ball, 35.56 to 24.5, thanks to 13 points from the New York Jets defense and the fact that AZ Chargers left defensive lineman Charles Johnson in the lineup on a bye. AZ Chargers is now head of the class, #1 seed overall at 7-2 in the standings, while Amazons falls to 3-6 on the year. Looking ahead to Week 10, we have some major matchups ahead in Week 10 action, as all the division leaders will be playing each other. AZ Chargers and the Toro division leader will take on Aztec division leading Mojo Jojo, and Wildcat division leader Lombardi's Ghost will take on Cavs division leader What the Shell. Powerade will take on Mustache in a battle of 5 and 4 teams. Powerade will take his 4-game winning streak into that one. Bearju will meet up with the slumping Wildcats. Championship Cheese will take on I Don't Deserve This. Boners meets Big Ben. Greek meets Navajos. And Viva meets Amazons. Remember, this week's first game is going to be this Thursday as the San Diego Chargers take on the Oakland Raiders. So if you own any Raiders or Chargers, you'll want to make sure that you have them in the appropriate place in your lineup before that game begins. The rest of the action will take place Sunday and Monday, and we'll see you back next Tuesday for your Week 10 recap in the Tucson Tackle Dummies League.